I still remember the day they all showed up in my living room, phones in hand, faces scrunched like they'd accidentally bitten into a lemon. I'd just finished sketching out the latest figures for my savings plan, my baby, as I jokingly called it, on the whiteboard against the far wall. Compound interest curves, emergency fund targets, automated transfers named after ridiculous things like space vacation and rainy day tacos. I stepped back, beaming. "See?" I said, tapping the board with the marker. By month 18, we hit the first milestone. Then it's straight to 7% net growth. Aunt Carla, perched on the edge of my couch, scoffed so audibly it echoed in the high-ceilinged room. "Please," she said, folding her arms, "you and your spreadsheets. You think money grows on trees?" I laughed because I was used to this by now. My family never took finance seriously unless it was a loan shark knocking on the door. My cousin Mason leaned against the doorway, smirking. "If your money tree ever blossoms, let me know. Until then, I'm good with a little extra cash up front." Up front, that was the magic phrase. No one saves, they take loans. And by they, I mean every single person I cared about. Friends, family, even my partner, Lila. They'd roll their eyes as I explained the beauty of paying yourself first, then turn around and file for cash advances on the fintech platform I built. A platform that, I designed it that way, would reward them for saving too, but only if they could overcome their own impulses. That afternoon, I cleared my throat. What if, instead of taking out loans, you each set aside just 10% of what you would borrow? Let's call it a mini savings challenge. Use the app to schedule automatic transfers. In a year, you'll have loans Mason supplied, raising his phone like proof. Watch, he tapped his screen. Filed. He swiped to show me the confirmation, $5,000 dispersed, ready to spend on a road trip. Aunt Carla rolled her eyes again. "You'll never stop pitching that nonsense, will you?" I shrugged. "I won't stop until someone tries it." "Anyone game?" Silence. Then Lila leaned forward from her spot on the armchair. "I guess I could try." I beamed at her. "Great, set up an automatic transfer, 10% of your paycheck, starting next Friday." She groaned, but the next morning, like clockwork, a notification pinged on my phone. Lila activated autosave, $150 weekly. I fist-pumped the air. Small victory. Over the next few weeks, I watched the app's dashboard bloom, with colorful streaks of deposits as Lila's balance grew. Meanwhile, Mason and Aunt Carla's loan balances fluttered like confetti. One trip here, a new TV there, a miracle whitening kit, guaranteed to dazzle. My heart ached. Here was a tool that could help them build security. But they refused, preferring instant gratification. Then the trouble began. It was a rainy Thursday evening when the first text arrived. "You are gent, need $2K advance." I frowned. The app's policy limited advances to once a quarter, but I'd set up a discretionary help pot for emergencies. The help pot had rules. The borrower had to agree to match any advance with equal savings in the next quarter. I'd thought that incentive might lure them onto the savings side. I opened the app's support channel to reply, but found instead a group chat notification. Family finances. Within Aunt Carla's plea. Car broke down. Towing is $500. Repair probably $1,500. Mason trip got canceled. Hotel wants cancellation fee. Advance me $2K. My chest tightened. 2 emergencies in 24 hours. Lila peeked at my phone. "Do you want me to help?" I shook my head. "Let me handle it." I opened the help pot request. 2 advances, totaling $2,000. If I approved, my own backup fund would shrink. If I denied, 2 people would be stranded. I approved. Loans dispersed with a sigh. But I messaged back, "You each owe me $2,000 in extra deposits by December 31st, or interest applies." Silence in the chat. Then Aunt Carla. "Fine. Thanks. Mason LOL. Okay." That weekend, I noticed something odd. A spike in platform signups. Friends of friends, making small deposits, then larger withdrawals. Seconds later, funds vanished into retail sites. Loan requests multiplied. My app's disclaimers about responsible borrowing were buried beneath the promise of instant approval and no-fee cash advances. I stared at the analytics, unprecedented traffic, but no savings growth, just a mosaic of short-term loans. It dawned on me, I'd built a genie's lamp, and everyone was rubbing it for cash, ignoring the savings magic. I texted Lila, "We have a problem." She rushed into my studio apartment, my control center, and stared at the glowing screens. "You can't blame them," she said. They've never been taught differently." "Exactly," I muttered, pulling up the savings challenge dashboard. "They need to see the alternative. We need a faucet for their money, not a fire hose." Lila paced. "We could gamify it further. Leaderboards, badges, maybe a real reward for hitting mini goals like a voucher or something." I nodded, the gears turning. "And we start with a case study. Show Aunt Carla and Mason what saving can do." She tapped her phone. "I'll draft in-app challenges. Save $100 by next payday. Match your last loan with 10% extra savings, and tie it to real rewards." I grinned. "And I'll craft personalized reports, emails showing them what they'd have if they had saved instead of borrowed." Monday morning, I cornered Aunt Carla in the kitchen. She was making her third cup of coffee. "I've got something for you," I said, tapping my phone. "Open your email." She rolled her eyes but obliged. As the report loaded, her eyes flicked across the graph, a jagged red line showing her loan balance, and beside it, a smooth green curve illustrating what her savings could have been. $3,200 by now. Her coffee mug hovered midair. "Is that what I'd have?" I nodded. "If you'd set aside $100 a month instead of taking that sandal sale loan." She stared. That could have been my Paris fund." I smiled softly. "It can still be. Start the mini challenge. I'll set it up." Meanwhile, I pulled Mason aside at his job, our parents' old printing press business. He was in his warehouse office, crunching numbers for hired work. "Look at this." I showed him his personalized report. "Save $200 monthly, have $2,400 saved by year-end." He whistled. "That's better than nothing." I grinned. "Try it, and I'll throw in a reward. Hit that target, and I'll organize that road trip for free. No loans involved." He eyed me. "Deal." As the week unfolded, I watched in amazement. Aunt Carla's space vacation goal popped up 5% progress. Mason's road trip fund ticked upward. Friends in the chat stared in confusion. Wait, loans or savings? Discussions flourished. Even a few skeptics asked me to set up their mini challenge. For the first time, my app wasn't just a payday advance machine. It was a financial coach. I sat back in my chair, sipping tea, as Lila nudged me. "You saved them from themselves," she said, proud. I laughed. "Saved them from credit card interest, too." Then the notifications started. "Congratulations, Aunt Carla. You hit 25% of your goal. Mason just matched his first advance with extra savings, bonus badge earned." I glanced at the group chat, now full of cheer. Aunt Carla posted a selfie, wine glass in hand, a small stack of euros peeking from her purse. Caption: "Paris, here I come. Growth never looked so good. Mason, hitting the road next month. Paid in full thanks to my fintech friend." My chest swelled. But as I basked in the glow, a new ping caught my eye. An unknown user had sent a support ticket. Subject: loan application denied. Appeal. I clicked. The message read, "I need a loan, but the system says I have too much savings. Please override." I stared at the words, stunned. They'd flipped the script. They wanted extra borrowing capacity now that they'd built balances. I turned to Lila. "We made them love saving too much." She laughed, incredulous. "Is that possible?" I shrugged, tapping my phone. "Let's find out. Maybe it's time to introduce a new feature. Savvy Borrow. Reward responsible savers with reduced interest rates on loans. Still encourage growth. Still meet their needs." She grinned. "Blow their minds." That night, I drafted the Savvy Borrow proposal, watched the code compile, and pushed the update to staging. I envisioned a future where credit wasn't the default, but a tool used wisely, where people saw loans as part of a balanced financial diet, not a starvation cure. As I shut down my laptop, the city lights winked outside my window. My savings plan sat on the whiteboard, and below it, the app's dashboard flickered one last notification. User Space Cadet Carla has unlocked Savvy Borrow status, 5% APR on next advance. I smiled and leaned back. They had rolled their eyes, filed for loans, laughed at my plan, yet here they were, seeking more loans on their own terms because they'd learned to save first. Tomorrow, I'd unveil Savvy Borrow to everyone. Then the real growth would begin. And this time, they wouldn't roll their eyes, they'd roll in. When my alarm rang at 6 a.m. the next morning, I almost hit snooze without thinking. Instead, I sat up and stared at the ceiling, mind buzzing with the weekend's breakthroughs and the new challenge that had just surfaced. My Savvy Borrow feature was in staging, waiting for its big debut, but the seed of a fresh problem had already sprouted. They'd asked me to unlock extra borrowing, despite having healthy savings. On one hand, this was exactly the pivot I'd envisioned, responsible savers using loans strategically. On the other, it felt like a hitch in my grand plan to change mindsets forever. I shook my head, swung my legs over the side of the bed, and powered through my morning routine faster than usual. By 8 a.m., I was at my desk, laptop open, coffee in hand, ready to shore up Savvy Borrow's loyalty reward logic. I needed a rule: only savers who'd hit at least 50% of their next goal could unlock reduced-rate loans. I coded the conditional checks, wrote the email templates, and deployed to production with a nervous click. A minute later, the notifications poured in. Congratulations, you now qualify for Savvy Borrow. Enjoy 5% APR on your next advance. Leela's text followed, "You're a wizard." I smiled, but my attention snapped to a direct message on the team's Slack channel. "You are gent, compliance flagged, loan overrides must be audited." Great, I breathed deep. The compliance team at our partner bank had spotted that Savvy Borrow was essentially an exception path around our usual borrowing limits. They needed documentation, approval, and legal sign-off before we could continue. Meanwhile, if we paused the feature, our early adopters would be left dangling. I messaged Leela, "Need you at the office ASAP." She replied, "On my way." In 20 minutes, she strode into the studio. Our cramped back room had become my war room and peered at my screen. "What now?" I pointed at the audit alert. "Our compliance partner is worried we've created a loophole for savvy borrowers to over-leverage." She raised an eyebrow. "But isn't that the point? We reward smart behavior." I nodded, "Yes, but legally, we have to prove that Savvy Borrow doesn't facilitate reckless debt. We need usage data, risk models, and a communication plan to reassure regulators." Leela scratched her head. "On-site data to compliance, looks like we need a loan performance report. Show that our early Savvy borrowers aren't defaulting and that their savings cushions us." I tapped at the keyboard. "Exactly. Pull stats, number of Savvy Borrow activations, average loan size, repayment rates, default rates, average savings balances." She stepped over to the whiteboard and sketched columns: activated, loans taken, on-time repayments, defaults, average savings. "Once we have this," I said, "we can package and present to compliance, and maybe tweak our terms if needed." She grinned. "I'll get the data and draft the memo. You handle the code lockdown so no one else can trigger Savvy Borrow until sign-off." I nodded, fingers flying. A half hour later, we had our deck, charts showing that, among 120 Savvy borrowers, 96% repaid on time, only 1% defaulted, and average savings remained at 65% of goal thresholds. We even highlighted Aunt Carla's and Mason's success, very humanized case studies. We uploaded the memo to the compliance portal and sent a follow-up to our bank partners. Now, we played the waiting game. 2 days later, just after lunch, the compliance manager, an affable but stern woman named Priya, called me on my work line. Her voice was formal. "Thank you for your prompt data. We've reviewed Savvy Borrow, and it meets our risk criteria. We have a few minor terms edits, but you're clear to roll forward." A rush of relief washed over me. "Thank you, Priya. I'll integrate your edits right away. Please ensure the features conditions are communicated clearly in the app. Our mandate is transparency." "Understood." I closed my eyes, leaning back. "Thank you for your partnership." That evening, I stayed late in the studio to implement Priya's recommended wording in our in-app prompts and loan terms. When I finally logged off at 9:30 p.m., the office was silent. The city lights outside glittered like digital confetti. I paused by the window, reflecting on the journey from that first savings plan sketch to this fintech feature rollout. Loans that now rewarded savings instead of punishing its absence. My phone buzzed. It was a group message from the Family Finances chat. "Aunt Carla, Savvy Borrow is awesome. Just got approval for my emergency advance. 5% APR is a dream." Mason, "Me too. Won't need it, but nice backup." Lila, you did it, babe. I smiled so wide my cheeks hurt. But then I noticed one more ping from an unknown number. Hey Sam, love Savvy Borrow. I'd like to talk about a partnership. Huge potential. Can we meet? Intrigued, I tapped reply. Tell me more. 2 days later, I found myself in the lounge of a downtown coworking space, across from a sharply dressed man in his early 40s. He introduced himself. I'm Raj Patel, head of strategic partnerships at Horizon Bank. We've been following your platform's growth, especially the way you've gamified healthy financial behavior. We think there's a national rollout opportunity. My pulse quickened. What did you have in mind? He leaned forward, eyes bright. Licensing Savvy Borrow to our 50,000 small business customers. Imagine SMB owners who also struggle with cash flow could access a similar rewards-based advance feature tied to their business savings goals. I exhaled. This was huge. Exactly the kind of scaling I dreamed of, and a validation of the approach incentivizing savings before borrowing. But it also meant surrendering my baby to a larger corporate machine, with inevitable compromises. He continued, the bank has compliance, marketing budgets, customer reach. You get a percentage of revenue and a national spotlight. I weighed it. Partnership could mean real impact, millions learning smarter financial habits. Yet I worried, would they water down the gamification? Would they respect the integrity of my design, my ethos? I cleared my throat. I need to discuss with my team and ensure any partnership preserves the core mission, empowering people to save first. He nodded. Of course. We're flexible. We want an authentic collaboration. We shook hands on a tentative timeline, draft a non-binding term sheet, present to executive boards, and get back within 2 weeks. Back at the studio, I unfurled my whiteboard markers and sketched the Horizon deal outline. Benefits, risks, requirements, non-negotiables. Lila hovered behind me, curious. You got big news, she said, excitement flickering in her voice. I ran through the meeting. I want to do it, but only if they agree to maintain the gamification intact. Give me veto power over UI changes, and commit to a joint impact report every quarter. She nodded thoughtfully. Those are smart asks. Protects your brand and mission. I smiled at her. What do you think? She grinned. I think you're about to change personal finance in this country. The next morning, I drafted my response to Raj, a clear outline of required standards, timelines, and pilot scope. If we partner, here's the framework. I wrote. When Raj replied that afternoon, he accepted my terms and suggested we schedule a joint kickoff next week. That evening, in the family finances chat, I shared the news. Aunt Carla peppered me with emojis. Mason quipped, "Look at us, veterans of the fintech revolution." I sat back, feeling the warmth of those small victories. My app had started as a nudge toward better habits. Then, through trial and error, mockery, emergency advances, compliance hurdles, it matured into a platform balancing human psychology with financial tools. And now, a national bank wanted to scale that. But real change happens a person at a time. When Carla's eyes widened at the prospect of Paris, when Mason's road trip was debt-free, when Lila's early adopters completed their first challenges, and even when a savvy, hypothetical partner believed enough in my vision to propose a massive rollout. Tomorrow, I'd sign term sheets, refine the pilot plan, and rally my small team. I'd draft my next column, why encouragement, not shame, creates true financial change. But tonight, I'd close my laptop, step out onto the balcony, and inhale the city's night scent. I'd savor the fact that, despite all the eye rolls and loans filed against my savings plan, something meaningful had taken root. Above the humming skyline, I whispered to the stars as though they were old friends. Let's see how far we can grow. And as the lights flickered in thousand-windowed buildings below, I knew the answer already.